Hi, so my name is Justin Bentley, and this semester at University of Canberra, I did the project ICTP. And so at University of Canberra, I'm a third year student. Let's say I've got about three more units to go, which is a semi-light semester. At university, I only really do three units per semester instead of four because well, it gives me more time to read the textbooks and basically put more effort and work into what I do. So this is uh this is for ICTP, the project, and what I made is a virtual reality Tai Chi simulator. And so in previous units, I've done C++ programming, and I've done uh, legacy OpenGL, or the old style of OpenGL, which is much easier um, compared to this, which is modern OpenGL. Not just modern OpenGL, but also using the Openvr libraries to make a program in virtual reality and on the HTC Vive, which would be running on Steam. Uh, if I was to publish it, that is, which I may not. I'm still undecided right now. Um, so I'll take you through a demonstration of what I submitted, which is the project, uh, an OpenVR Tai Chi simulator. Um, so I was saying this is in OpenVR, and it's also in modern OpenGL, which is much harder than legacy OpenGL. Very rewarding, quite powerful, has a lot of options. You can only use modern OpenGL in virtual reality. You can't use legacy because you need frame buffers. Um, but I also use Maya. So I use Maya to make the models. So I made the models in Maya, which is like CAD, really. So I would make models that you'll see in a minute. And then I exported them as triangles. This is actually my second take of the video because the first take, the recording levels here were a bit too high. So there was a lot of crackling, which is clipping in the audio. And the other thing was I checked the levels halfway through the video, and then I left this screen right here when I was demonstrating. So what consisted of that video was mainly this. So this is take two. So I'll try to go through basically what I went through the first time. So I was saying, I made all the models, all the background, and all stuff like that in Maya, exported them as triangles, and then I wrote this program, or this class, mesh loader, to import them. So what it does, so just a little bit of a bit of technical stuff, programming related. Um, And do feel free to fast forward the video a little bit to the demonstration if you wish. Um, but so this is this function here loads the triangles. Actually, that function loads the materials. So the ambient values, the transparency values, and substitutes it at the right time in order of being found. when you write them to the OpenGL buffer. So the load mesh data function loads the text file, which is a collection of triangles, which is a collection of vertices, texture coordinates, sorry, vertices, normals, and they come in as faces. Uh, it's basically 3 by 3. So you've got faces, which is one face consists of a vertice, a texture coordinate, and a normal. So that's these three here, and there's three of them per line. So this does it per line in a scanf. In a scanf function that scanfs the whole line. So you read in the line here, and then that line is held in RAM, and then you access the line using scanf, and that goes to a buffer in the header, which is protected or private. Same thing for all intents and purposes. So you load it up in Mesh Loader, and then that stores it in RAM here. And then from that point, when you call it, you can load it into OpenGL. So you have markers. So it comes in as triangles, but it also comes in as, but you get material changes in that in the list of triangles. And so this here will load it into OpenGL. And also what it will do is it will nice. Also it will load the vertices, the textures, and the normals, and it would also give it its correct material. So in Maya, I kept it to about so far I kept it to a maximum of 4 different materials per mesh. So Maya/CAD file, and this is what loads it in and writes it to the GPU as a buffer. So now that that's done, I reckon what we'll do is I'll show you a demonstration. So this is the demonstration of the program that I made and submitted, and it'll just load, and here it is. So I'll be putting the goggles on, so I'll go through the goggles. And one point to note is, so you see here, so I'm basically moving the goggles around, and it's tracking and stuff like that. So you see it here, and it looks a little skewed. It looks much better in the goggles because the projection matrix is provided by Steam/OpenVR/ the goggles themselves. So the projection matrix is provided by that, because because as I was talking about frame buffers before, you have to use modern OpenGL, and the reason for that is because you need to use frame buffers. And so the way I display this on the goggles is by using 2 different frame buffers, which is essentially a rectangle, which is create a world and render the world, but render it onto a rectangular texture, and that's a frame buffer. And the only way to get them on the goggles is to do it that way as frame buffers. So I have a frame buffer for the left eye and a frame buffer for the right eye, and so that's and the program runs at 90 hertz or frames per second. So that's 180 hertz, and I have a 1080 Ti on this computer, luckily. So it's so it has a lot of a lot of processing power, but 190 hertz running this program is still a fair bit. And with VR, you need to keep it at 90 hertz or above, or generally at 90 hertz, at least, at a minimum. Uh, so so rendering two frame buffers onto each eye is 180 hertz or frame rate. Um, and that's fairly reasonable. That's rather taxing. So what I do to display it on the screen on the screen which you're seeing is I basically send the two text the frame buffers to the goggles, and I also paint one of the frame buffers onto a rectangle, and then I display it on the monitor, which you're seeing. Otherwise, I'd be rendering at 270 frames per second, essentially, effectively, and at that start, and yeah, there's only so much you can really render at such a frame rate. So that's why what you're seeing is is a duplicate of what I'm sending to the goggles. But it also means that the projection matrix that is provided by the goggles is tailored for the goggles themselves and not a monitor. So it does look a little skewed, but it's basically a small sacrifice that I made for efficiency purposes, for said reasons. So, what I reckon we'll do now is I will actually demonstrate the program. So I'll get ready. And if you just bear with me, um, I will uh, I will load the controller bindings through Steam. For some reason, you have to load this every single time you run the program, which I wouldn't necessarily say it's ideal, but well, it's the only way you can get the controllers. And naturally, you need an always-on internet connection in order to do so. So, let's get ready. Let's get prepared. Let's move my desktop chair out of the way of the playing area. Unfortunately, the microphone, which is a headset, provided by Kingston, if anyone's interested. And so that's the microphone, so it's a headset. And I tried running it through the Vive itself, but the amplification was really bad. So if I was to do that, you wouldn't hear my voice too greatly. So I elected against that. But that also means that I have a smaller cable and another cable, obviously, that goes to the computer. So I can't go as far as I normally would from the computer as such. So I reckon now I'm gonna actually demonstrate this thing. So I'll just do a double check, and I reckon we are ready to go. I just gonna make the music slightly louder. Alrighty. Okay. So nice. Okay, so this is the game, the program, the la-di-do. 14 minutes already. I'll probably make it timestamp so you can just skip straight to the demonstration. Okay, so this is the demonstration. So you have your two hands, and if you're wondering, the hands seem to look like worlds. I believe this is that is Mars. And that is, well, everyone knows this one. Wherever you may be, you may see yourself on my hands. Okay, and they are they are worlds, let's say, on the hands, and that was that was a that was a that was a request by the Tai Chi expert that I recorded because he had a lot of problems differentiating between the recorded hands, his hands, and also left and right. So we gave a texture to each individual hand. So I've got all these cables following me. I'll just make sure everything is in order. Make sure nothing is unplugged. Hopefully not. And let's play some Tai Chi. So I did get so there is the function to record, and that is how we recorded the Tai Chi expert. So I'll play him in a minute. The high score, which is the second score that you see, that is written to a text file. So it's like a config file. Sorry. And that text file records your high score, and it does a check at the end of the game to see if your current score is higher than that score, and if so, it will record it to the text file. And next time you play the game, it'll re-import it. So the text file is persistent between executions of the program. So I did that, and I reckon now is about time to play. So I've got so on the controller here, on the trackpad, I've rigged it up to basically operate this machine here. So without further ado, let's play. Okay, so this is the recording of the Tai Chi expert, and this is essentially the aim of the game, to follow the expert's hands. And so let's do that a little bit. So that is it. That is how it works. And there's another function that I rigged into the trackpad back here, which is to slow and to speed up the replay of the hands. So you can slow them down to about a factor of 6, and you can also speed them up by doing that. So if you're a severe expert and you're very good with Tai Chi, you can go at full speed, and you will get score, and you actually get a very slightly better score if naturally you can keep up. So what I'll do is I'll slow them back down, and now I'll explain the score function. So I made a function that will basically give you more score the closer you are to the hands. So the closer you are to the hands, the more your score advances. And that also works each hand. So if you have both the hands correctly, like that, you will get extra score. So there is a score function to this program. And once I said, I have 2 cables behind me, and one is the microphone and the microphone is much smaller than So that's it. So the score function, you get score, you don't get score, you get more score. And if you have them both like that, you get even more score. So that's how it works. Of course, if I had actually done Tai Chi before, I'd probably be better at this. But what can you do? So that's essentially how it works. And that's the wrong hand. And that's essentially the game, in a nutshell. And that's about it. And so that's how it works. And so what I will do is there's one more function. So, and this is a function that you don't have to do, but you can if you elect so. So what I did is so there's a trigger on this controller, and if you press it, which I just did, it'll toggle the rear trackpad from access of the machine to movement. So luckily for you, you're on a display. I'm the one with the goggles, and when you move around in a world in VR, it actually can be quite daunting. So I was watching a thing from Computex the other day, and someone was showing off some VR stuff where basically they were getting hammered by artillery or something, and I was basically watching it and thinking, that dude, that dude is gonna be in a bit of distress, and he was all smiles and all stuff like that. But anyway, okay, I'll probably just leave that there. But anyway, so let's go for just a little kind of walk. And so this is the training room that I created. You're not really supposed to see this part, so the texture mapping is not as good as some parts. Let's say over here. But let's go for a little walk, just for fun. So this is the roof cavity that don't have to be in, but this is the top. So this is the training room. I'll just hit the chair, and you can strafe, walk around, and have a look at it. So you don't necessarily have to be out here, but you can if you wish. And we can just go for a little walk, just around. So this is what I created in Maya, as I was saying before, exported as triangles, and so that's essentially the training room. And there's the front doors, there's the machine, and that there says Tai Chi. I have a Chinese friend at university, and he was and he basically found me that texture, and so I chucked it on top of the training room. And so that's about it. That's about everything. I'll probably leave it like that, and hope to see you again.